I already put the first slide up here, so hopefully everybody is ready. My name is Derek Bovey, and I work as a product specialist here at AI Squared. And today's webinar is a very basic overview of ZoomText. So if you're familiar with the product, if you've been using it for a long time, this might be kind of a refresher for you. We're going to go over the basic magnification and reading features in the product. Here's a little outline of what we're going to go over. At the end of our webinar, we'll have a short, maybe 15-minute question and answer session for those of you that have questions. Becca and I will be here. If you have questions while I'm presenting, Becca is logged in to the GoToWebinar meeting, and if you have questions, you can post in the chat window, or there's also a questions tab where you can ask a question privately, and she'll answer it during my presentation. We're also going to demo ZoomText live over the internet. So just one thing to keep in mind is, depending on issues with bandwidth and whatnot, it might look a little choppy at times. So just keep that in mind while you're watching. This might not be exactly the same performance you'd expect in your house with ZoomText on a live computer, but this is about as good as it gets today. So we're going to go ahead and get started. So the first thing I'm going to do is go ahead and start ZoomText. And for the sake of our demonstration start here, I have ZoomText coming up at 1x or no magnification right now, and I also have speech disabled. One of the first things I want to show you is as you increase your magnification level in ZoomText, you're unable to see the entire desktop. So at 2x magnification, I'm effectively seeing 1/4 of the entire desktop. As I move my mouse, once I get toward the edge of my view, ZoomText will track the screen until it hits the boundary of the desktop. So I simply move my mouse to continue to move my magnified view around to the rest of the screen. This is going to be one of those things that if you're new to ZoomText, you're going to have to get used to, and that's not being able to see the entire screen at one time. So you're going to kind of have to be familiar with how Windows is laid out. You've got your Start menu down the lower left-hand corner, where you can access your programs and documents. Along the bottom of the taskbar, you have to launch applications, or any programs that might be running are going to be listed down here. And in the lower right, you have your system tray icons and system-level programs like antivirus and the clock. And any running application is normally going to have menus across the top of the application window, just like on the ZoomText toolbar. So those are sort of some of the things you'll have to keep in mind, since you can't see the whole desktop, is orient yourself and understand where things are going to be. If there's anything that pops up on screen, like an alert or something like that, ZoomText will track to it. So if I had a dialog box pop up, it would automatically move my view to that, and I'd be able to see it. So for the most part, ZoomText is going to do that for you automatically, but you still want to have an idea of where things are on screen. A common question that we get from our users or from people that are new to ZoomText is, they want to see more of the desktop, but also see it magnified so it's easier for them to read. And they'll frequently ask us, well, if I buy a large monitor, a bigger monitor than what I'm using now, will I see more of the desktop? And the answer is, if you're at the same magnification level, then the answer is no. 2x on a 19-inch monitor is still 1/4 of the desktop, just like it would be on a 50-inch monitor. You're still seeing 1/4 of the whole desktop. So for those individuals, I usually say to them, if you get a bigger monitor, you might be able to use a smaller magnification level. So maybe you're at 1.5 instead of 2, or if you're a 4x user, maybe you can drop it down to 2x with a larger monitor. So bigger is not always necessarily better in that scenario if you're requiring the same magnification level even on the bigger screen. So just something to keep in mind for those of you that might have asked that or were wondering that yourselves. So in front of us, we have the ZoomText toolbar or user interface, and the product is broken up into 2 tabs. You have the magnifier tab, which houses all the features relating to magnification, and the reader tab, where all the speech-related functions and reading tools are housed. ZoomText is all sold as just the magnifier, so effectively, same thing you see here without the Reader tab, and the magnifier reader, which will be what you would get if you're checking out a trial of ZoomText. And the Reader product has all the reading features you see here, along with synthesized speech. So again, just for those of you that might not know, we do sell a product without speech if you don't think you'll need it. So the first thing I'm going to show you, at the beginning of the demo, I increase the magnification here. I'm going to show you how you can do it. Easiest way is you can click on the up and down arrows here in the power spin box, and that'll increase or decrease your magnification. Great thing about ZoomText is even at very high magnification levels, the text quality is still going to be crystal clear and easy to read. It's print quality text at any magnification level. We have a patented technology that allows us to do this, so that's one of the really great things about ZoomText. Some other ways you can change your magnification level is you can use the keyboard. And to do that, you can hold down the Alt key, which is on either side of the space bar, and then press plus key, which is on the number pad all the way at the right-hand side of your desktop keyboard. So Alt plus will increase, and Alt minus will decrease. For those of you that have laptops, you probably won't have a dedicated number pad, so you may have to hold down a function key to access where the number pad buttons are on the keyboard. So in that case, it would be Alt and then the function key and wherever the plus or minus keys are on the laptop. There's one other way you can change your magnification level, and that's use keyboard and mouse. And to do that, you'd hold down the Control key and scroll your mouse wheel up or down. So if I hold down Control and scroll my mouse wheel up, it's increase my magnification level. And if I hold down the Control key and scroll my mouse wheel down toward me, it'll decrease my magnification level. So those are three really quick and easy ways you can change the magnification in ZoomText. I think most people are going to rely on the keyboard shortcuts or the Control mouse wheel only so that they don't have to go back to the toolbar to make these changes. If you're in an application and you want to zoom in something quickly, it's much easier if you use the keyboard shortcuts rather than switching between applications, going back, and then changing it back to where it was. So these are some really great shortcuts to help you use ZoomText. At the top of our presentation, I showed you how you can't see the entire desktop while ZoomText is running. However, what you can do is alter how the magnified view is presented to you. And what I mean by that is we have a feature called Zoom Window Type. And right now we're running at full screen magnification, so effectively ZoomText is taking up the entire screen. But these other Zoom window types will present the magnified view to you differently. For example, if I click on the overlay zoom window, you're going to see that about 75% of my desktop is unmagnified. So I'm seeing most of the desktop. And in the lower right-hand corner, I'm seeing a magnified view of wherever my mouse pointer is moving, or I'm using the keyboard, wherever the keyboard or system focus is, I'm seeing in that magnified window. So this is kind of a good way if you want to be able to see most of the desktop while kind of having a magnified preview of where you are. The overlay window is going to allow you to accomplish that. The next zoom window type we have is called lens. And this is kind of like dragging a virtual magnifying glass around your screen. You see it only highlighting an area around the mouse pointer, or if I was using the keyboard, it would be around wherever the keyboard focus is. Now, if I was at a higher magnification level, you're going to see that not much fits in this window. So there is a way to adjust all sizes and locations of the zoom windows. If I go back down or click on the type button and scroll down the menu here, there's an adjust option. I'm going to click on that. And now I can see my lens window has these handles attached to it. And I can literally click and drag one of the handles to resize the window. And when I'm happy with the new size, I can just right-click my mouse or press Escape to exit the Adjust Tool mode. So now, if I go back to ZoomText here, you're going to see that lens window being much larger. I can fit more information in it. I should also mention all the features in ZoomText are highly customizable. Almost everything in this product can be customized to your liking. So this is just a brief demonstration of what the adjust tool can do, but you can use it for any of the zoom window types. The next zoom window is called line, and what this is going to do is magnify one line on the screen at a time. It's really best used in a document. Like if you're proofreading or if you're typing in a document, that's where it's best used, not so much scrolling around the screen. So I will first open up a Word document that I have here, and this just happens to be the Gettysburg Address. And I'm going to use the keyboard shortcut to cycle to the next zoom window, which is actually Control-Shift-Z, like zebra on the keyboard. So I'm cycle to line view. And now you'll see that as I'm arrowing up and down this document, it's only magnifying one line of text at a time. So that's really going to be great. If I'm proofreading or if I'm typing, that's only magnifying wherever the cursor focus is. And that way it kind of keeps my, my focus, per se, in the right spot. And the other great thing about the line view is that it'll adjust the size of the window to the font size that it encounters. So if you have a really small or really large font, it'll make sure that the window adjusts automatically to fit that in there. The next four zoom window types I'm going to show you are called docked, or you can also think of them as split screen views. I think that's a better description. This is docked bottom, so the bottom half of my screen is magnified and the top half is unmagnified. Both of these windows will scroll independently, so as you reach the boundary of each one of them, they're going to scroll until you hit the boundary of the desktop. So there's docked bottom. We also have docked top, so it's the same thing. It's still split horizontally. Top half of your screen is now magnified. Bottom half is unmagnified. And the next zoom window is docked right. So now the screen is split vertically, and the right half of the screen is magnified, and the left half is unmagnified. And finally, we have docked left. So we're split vertically. Now the left half of the screen is magnified, right half is unmagnified. You could use the adjust tool to modify the docked window. So you could make more of the screen showing the magnified view, less of it. You could drag that line in the middle around however you like. And now I'm back to full screen. So those were the zoom window types. There's just a couple other things I'm going to show you in the type menu here. First of which is the freeze window. Now what the freeze window is going to do is allow me to define an area of the screen that I always want to be visible, even if it's not currently visible on screen. Because when you're in full screen magnification, you can't see the whole desktop. So what I'm going to do is create a freeze window by clicking on the New button here, and you'll see my mouse pointer has what kind of looks like a thermometer attached to it. I'm going to create a freeze window around the clock in the lower right-hand corner. So I'm just going to left-click and drag my mouse and then let go of my left mouse button. And I can resize this window if I want, or I can move it. So let's say I'm going to put the clock in the upper right-hand corner. I just left in the middle of that window and dragged it up there. Now that I'm happy with it, I'm going to right-click my mouse to accept those changes. So now you'll notice that even though the clock isn't visible, with the freeze window, it's always going to show up on my screen. Now the up might not be a great spot for that because now I can't see some of the buttons at the top of the application, but for the sake of this example, you get the idea. Essentially, the freeze window is going to allow you to have something always visible on screen, even if it's outside of your view. One thing to keep in mind, though, if something were to obstruct the view of this, or if I minimize the taskbar or made it larger, it's going to affect the freeze window. So if you create a freeze window in an application, let's say, and then minimize or close it, it's just going to show you what is visible there at the current time. So that's just something to keep in mind. I'm going to go back here and disable our freeze window by going back to type, down freeze, and then click disable. One last thing is ZoomText does support dual monitors. So if you have a system that's dual monitor capable, there's a few ways that you can use ZoomText with dual monitors. I unfortunately can't demo it to you over the internet, but I can kind of explain what it does. There's 3 different modes. two of which I think are really useful. One is kind of, I don't know what you would use it for, but it's there anyway. First of which is span view, which essentially will span your magnified view across two screens. So if you're at 2x, basically you're only scrolling up and down. The horizontal width of your desktop will fit across the two monitors, and you'll have a much more visible on screen. The next one is clone view. In this one, to me, there might be a specific situation where you'd use this, but essentially both monitors would be showing the same magnified view. So if someone wanted to present something magnified, like let's say on a projector or something like that, they could do it with clone view, have their laptop connected to a projector, and then an audience could see the same thing. Primary with 1x view, one monitor is magnified and the other is unmagnified. So if this is a situation with a low vision student and a teacher, the teacher could be viewing 1x or unmagnified display while the student's running magnified on the other, and then the teacher can see what the student is doing without being kind of confused by what they're limited to see in the magnified view. So those are the dual monitor features in ZoomText. The next thing we're going to get into are the enhancements, first of which is the color enhancement. And all of these features are going to make it easier to see and locate things on screen. That's the whole idea behind the enhancements. So the first one is the color filter. If I click on this, right now we're set to normal color. You can customize all of these enhancements by going down the settings. I'm not going to get into any customization. I'm just going to show you some of the preset schemes. So if I click on Scheme here, I'm going to show you the reverse video color scheme. And now that I've clicked on that, you're going to see that everything on my screen has become inverted. So if I look at the document that I had open, it's now white text on a black background, which is much higher in contrast and easier to read. Even someone that's not low vision, this is going to be much easier to see on screen. It's going to cause you less eye strain and fatigue as you're reading things throughout the day. So the color filters have a lot of merit in that they're going to help reduce contrast and lessen the strain on your eyes. Just something to keep in mind is that the color filter is going to affect everything on screen. So if I look back at our desktop, you'll see that that desktop image is also inverted. So just keep that in mind. If you use a color filter and you're looking at pictures, they might look a little strange. Good news is you can turn it on and off really easily. You can go back to the toolbar and choose normal color. Or on the keyboard, it's Control-Shift-C like Charlie to cycle that color filter on and off. And if you happen to have our ZoomText keyboard, our ZoomText large print keyboard, there's actually a dedicated key on that keyboard to turn any of the enhancements on. For those of you that don't know about the keyboard, it's a large print keyboard. Keys are normal size, but the print on the keys is 36-point font. We sell it with black lettering on yellow keys and white lettering on black keys, very high contrast. And they have 18 dedicated function keys across the top for specific ZoomText functions. It's a great companion product to ZoomText, and really a great way to learn how to use it too, because you can simply press one button to turn things on and off. The next enhancement I'm going to show you is called the pointer enhancement, and this is going to affect how the mouse pointer looks on screen. Right now we're set to normal, so it's the default Windows scheme. But you can change it here. For example, we have the large yellow cursor, so my mouse pointer is larger and yellow in color. Some of you might be thinking, well, but can't I do this in Windows already? That's correct. You can change how big the mouse pointer is and what color it is and have different shaped cursors and things like that. But with ZoomText, there's also optional locators to make it even easier to find on screen. For example, the yellow with full cross, you'll notice that there's a red cross on screen that's intersecting where my mouse pointer is to make it easier to pick up. Then you've also got some like the red with circle, so now it's circling where my mouse pointer is. You can even have that, if I choose a circle when moving, have it only display the circle when I move the mouse, so that way it's only visible then. So if it annoys you to have that circle on, only show up when the mouse is moving. And you've even got kind of, whoops, sorry, wrong spot, the giant green pointer. So if you want a really big mouse pointer, You can choose the giant green scheme. Again, all these you can customize. I mean, you could have a giant red pointer if you wanted to, but just for the sake of our webinar here, we're showing you some of the preset schemes. So that's the pointer enhancement. I'm going to go ahead and leave this on a large yellow. The next enhancement I'm going to do is the cursor enhancement. And before I turn it on, I want to go back to our document. If you notice, wherever the keyboard focus is or the insertion point is in the document, you have this blinking text cursor. That is, for a lot of people, very hard to pick up. It's constantly blinking on screen, and it's not very high contrast against the background, so hard to see for a lot of people, especially if it's in the middle of a word or something like that. So with cursor enhancement, I'm going to go in here and go down the scheme and choose the blue wedge scheme, which is the first one listed. And if we go back to the document, now you're going to notice that along wherever that text cursor is, it's also highlighted by these blue wedges. So that makes it really easy to pick up against the background, and you don't have to struggle to find it as much. So again, just an easier way to locate where things are on screen, in this case, the text cursor. And that'll work. It doesn't have to be a document. I mean, if I'm in the Start menu, it'll be blinking here in the Search Edit field. If I went to Google on my web browser, it would be blinking in the Search field. So wherever there is an insertion point for text editing in any application, the cursor enhancement will work. The last enhancement I'm going to show you is called the focus enhancement. And what this is going to do, if I open the focus menu here, if you notice as I'm hovering my mouse pointer on different items here, Windows is highlighting as well whatever the active item is. So there's kind of this light blue highlight around the item. It's like light blue on a gray background, which is very low in contrast. The newer operating systems, Windows Vista and Windows 7, are kind of much more transparent and less opaque than, say, Windows XP, for example. So in these cases, it's harder for people to pick up things on screen. That being said, I'm going to go here, click on Scheme, and choose Red Rectangle Focus Enhancement. And now you'll notice that along with that system highlight, there's also a red rectangle highlighting whatever the active item is. So whether you're on a menu here or if I'm in a dialog box, it's highlighting whatever is currently active. So if I'm tabbing through, it'll highlight the buttons, the tabs across the top, or even if I'm on the Start menu, it'll highlight whatever items are currently active on the Start menu as well. So it's, again, just another visual aid to help you see what is active on screen. So really useful. Like I said, in Windows Vista and Windows 7, things are much lower in contrast, so it's very useful for those operating systems. And I'm just going to go back here and change this to normal. So that concludes what we're going to cover on the magnification features in ZoomText. So now we're going to get into some of the reading features. First thing I'm going to do is click on the Reader tab and enable speech by clicking on the speech button here and then clicking Enable.
Speech enabled.
And you should have heard ZoomText say speech enabled. It's announcing to me that I've enabled speech. Now, before I get into any of the specific features or reading tools, I kind of want to demonstrate to you how ZoomText reads as you navigate on the screen. This concept is called screen reading. So first thing I'm going to do is click on the Word document to make that the active application.
Window Gettysburg Address compatibility with Microsoft Word.
So with ZoomText read, it'll read, when an application becomes active, it will read the title of that application. In this case, it said Gettysburg Address .doc, compatibility mode, and that just means that the document was made with an older version of Word, nothing to worry about there. Microsoft Word. So it announced to me that that's now active. I know that that's the active application. As I do other things, like let's say I go back to my desktop.
Desktop activated. Documents 4.8.
ZoomText told me that the desktop was activated, and the current item that's active or has the system focus is the Documents folder, which is the 4th out of 8 items on the desktop. So it's describing to me where focus is on screen and what I'm doing. If I open the Start menu
Search box, edit box.
It's going to tell me that focus is in search box, edit box. In Windows 7, when the start menu opens, you're immediately placed in the search field where you can start searching for programs, documents, etc. But as I arrow up the start menu,
All programs button. All programs submenu for shortcut, use A.
tells me I'm on the All Programs button. It has a sub-menu, meaning that there are additional items kind of like stacked underneath it. And the shortcut, the keyboard shortcut to launch that is A. So I could just hit A on the keyboard to activate that item instead of clicking on it with my mouse. If I arrow up, you'll hear it read similarly other items.
XPS viewer for shortcut, use X.
So that's kind of a brief demonstration of screen reading and how ZoomText reads as you navigate. So I'm going to go through and show you a couple reading features.
ZoomText user interface.
First thing I'm going to show you is what's called typing echo.
Typing echo menu open.
There's 4 settings for typing echo, and essentially what this controls is what ZoomText will speak as you type. You can say nothing or no echo. You can have it echo each key as you type. You can have it echo the word as you type. Effectively, after you press the space bar, it'll read what you just typed. Or you can have it echo keys and words. So I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate to you word echo.
No echo for shortcut. Windows Gettysburg address dot compatibility mode Microsoft Word.
And I'm just going to open a new file and start typing.
Windows Microsoft Word. Hello and thank you for attending.
So ZoomText read each individual word as I was typing. Like I said, after you hit the space bar, it will echo whatever word you just typed. So it's word echo. I'll show you key and word echo. I think for the most part, people that are touch typists are probably going to leave it on word echo. Because if I have key and word echo turned on, I'm going to have to type a little bit slower so that it echoes each individual word. So I'm going to cycle to that using a keyboard shortcut, which is Alt-Shift-T like Tom, to cycle the typing echo mode.
Typing echo enabled for keys and words.
And ZoomText told me that I have now set it to that mode. So now here is key and word echo.
C A N Can Y O U U H E A R here M E me.
So in that case, I had to type slower in order for me to hear it say each individual character. But for those of you, maybe you're proofreading something, or maybe you're trying to figure out keys on the keyboard, you're not a touch typist, then you would probably want to have it set to key and word echo. You can
ZoomText user interface.
You can change the speech rate. You can make it faster. Right now it's at 50, which is the default speed. You can double that by going all the way up to 100, and it'll speak even faster. So, I mean, if I were to type at my normal type speed, I could out-type word echo. So for those of you that are, along the 70 word per minute typing speeds, you're probably going to want to max out that rate so that it can keep with you. So that's typing echo. Next thing I'm going to show you is a feature called mouse echo.
Mouse echo menu open.
There's 2 modes, instant and hover. And what mouse echo does is it will essentially read whatever word you point your mouse at. So I'll turn it on to instant echo and just kind of show you what I mean.
Instant for shortcut, use I.
So now I'm going to move my mouse pointer over a word, any word on screen.
Thank you for attending.
Even if I'm on the desktop,
Desktop activated.
I'll hover over a word.
Of 8.
So
Explorer. Word. 2010.
So it's reading any word that I hover over. And now some of you might be thinking, well, that's great, but it's only reading one word. I want it to read a whole line, or I want it to read all words that are associated with that desktop icon. There is a setting for that. So if we go back to ZoomText.
ZoomText user interface.
And this is going to be the one of the few times I'm going to show you some custom settings. So going back to mouse,
Mouse echo menu.
I'm going to click on settings.
Settings stop. Mouse tab. Mouse echo group box instant echo radio button check for hotkey use I.
And ZoomText is telling me that instant echo is checked and what the hotkey is for it. There's a setting underneath the echo settings that says when the mouse passes over a word. Right now it's set to echo the word only. I'm going to change that to echo all words in the line or object.
Echo all words in the line or object.
And then I'm going to click OK.
Okay. Echo.
So now I'm going to go back to the desktop just to show you.
Minimize.
I'm going to hover over the word 2010 in the Microsoft Word 2010 icon.
Microsoft Word 2010.
So I read the whole item now.
Mozilla Firefox. Internet Explorer.
So now it's set to echo all words either in the object or if it's line of text, it'll read the entire line.
Microsoft Outlook 2010.
So I'm going to go back to our document here.
Dialog box. Window Gettysburg Address. Compat.
And
Proposition that all men are created equal. Not proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in A.
so it's reading the line wherever my mouse pointer is. And you might have noticed there, I moved my mouse a little bit and it continued to read, and then it interrupted itself to read again. Here's an example of where instant echo can maybe be a bit annoying. If I'm trying to scroll the document visually with the mouse, I'm just going to show you if I scroll slow enough, actually I don't even have to scroll that slow, but if I move my mouse pointer, it's going to continue to read each line of text as my mouse encounters it. So just to show you where instant echo may not be appropriate.
That should do this. Condense out what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here.
So
it is for.
So every word that it was encountering, it was trying to read that entire line as I moved my mouse. That's probably not going to be the desired operation or how you want this to work. So going back to ZoomText, I'm going to change hover echo.
Hover for shortcut, use H.
And I'm going to go through the same example again with hover echo turned on.
Gettysburg Address. Compatibility mode Microsoft Word.
So I'm scrolling my mouse. It won't read until I stop my mouse and keep stationary for about a half second.
Power to add or detract. The world will little note nor long remember.
So in the case of hover echo, you've got to keep your mouse pointer stationary before it reads something. I think most people are going to prefer that operation, so they have a little bit more control over what ZoomText is reading. It's not so chatty. Mouse echo is really great if you're on a web page and you just want to read, maybe you want to read the title of an article or a sentence or something like that. I always use ESPN's website as a good example because I love sports, number one, but also they have a bunch of articles listed on the right-hand side in like a bulleted list, and you could simply hover your mouse pointer over the text in the article. It'll read you that line of text, and then you can decide whether or not you want to click on that or go to the next one. So mouse echo is really great on the web as well.
Zoom.
All right, one last thing before we get into the reading features, the reading tools. There's a setting here called verbosity.
Verbose.
And what that's going to do,
Echo.
ZoomText is speaking too much right now. Anyway, what this is going to do is control what ZoomText says or how much it speaks. Right now it's set to beginner, which is the default setting, which also means it's going to speak the most amount of information. For those of you that aren't relying on speech on a daily basis to tell you exactly what you're doing, what you're opening, what buttons are, what the titles of application windows are and such, I would recommend changing it to expert.
Expert for short, use E.
And now that it's set to that, you'll notice that when I was opening these menus before, it was telling me typing menu open, mouse menu open, verbosity menu open. Now that I have it set to expert, it's not reading all that information. So it's reading only the most critical information on screen. You can even go in here. You go into settings.
Verbosity, expert, speak the text that appears on screen checked.
There's a whole bunch of check boxes here. You can have it speak exactly what you want it to by checking or unchecking any of these settings. So again, there's a high level of control you have over ZoomText and its customization.
ZoomText user interface.
All right. The last thing I'm going to show you, and ZoomText is speaking too much for me right now. One thing I should mention, there is a key that is affectionately called the shut up command, and you just hit the key at any time and you can stop ZoomText from speaking.
Read.
All right. So the next thing I'm going to show you are our two reading tools, App Reader, which is short for Application Reader, and Doc Reader, short for Document Reader. I just want to go here and turn off mouse echo because it's
No echo.
becoming a bit annoying. These are two tools that are used to read any text on screen. So whether it's a document, whether you're in an email, you're on the web, you have a PDF document, these are two tools that you can use to read those from start to finish. So I'm going to show you DocReader on the Gettysburg Address document that I have open right now. I'm going to click on the DocReader button. And you'll notice what's basically happened here is it's taken all the text from the document and presented it to me in this DocReader interface, which reformats all the text so that it flows vertically up and down. There's no horizontal scrolling. There's playback controls at the top. You can, if I click on play, it'll begin reading.
Final resting place for those who here gave their lives that the nation might live.
And I just click my mouse to pause. You can also hit the Enter key at any time to pause its reading. You can adjust the speech rate, the magnification power.
Power 6x, power 7x.
So you can make the text even bigger on screen. But again, the great thing about this is that it's going to flow vertically up and down. There's no scrolling left to right, which is really kind of hard if you're reading something. Reading it top to bottom is a lot easier than having to go side to side, up and down, kind of like a typewriter. But along with this, you can also customize a few other things. If I go into settings,
DocReader, font Verdana.
I can actually adjust what the font colors, what the background color looks like, and what the font face is in DocReader. So I'm going to go ahead and just make a few changes. You can see what the current settings look like down here in the preview window, but I'm going to change what the text looks like, change some color, highlight color, just so you can see what you can do with it.
Verdana. Talma. Style. Italic. Text 1.
And I'm going to make the text yellow on a black background. And now that magenta highlight's a little hard to see, so I'm going to change it to a red highlight.
Red. Okay. ZoomText 9.1.
So now it's a different font color, different font face, and I have the red highlight here, and I'm just going to hit Enter, and it'll start reading again.
Live. It is altogether fitting, Barbara, that we should do this.
And when I'm done with DocReader, I can just right-click the mouse or press Escape, or I can click on that Exit button to exit out. This will read start to finish, so it'll continue to read till it hits the end of the document. And once it does that, ZoomText will actually announce to me end of document, informing me that it's gotten to the end. So I'm going to hit Escape to exit DocReader, and now I'm back in the document. Now I'm going to show you how AppReader works.
ZoomText.
It does exactly the same things that DocReader does. It'll read any text document from start to finish. It'll announce to you when it's gotten to the end. But AppReader will not display the text in a separate interface. It's literally going to just highlight on screen where it's reading. So I'm going to click on AppReader, and you're going to see it start reading and hear it as well.
This, but in a larger sense, we cannot keep, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground.
And I just left-clicked to pause, or I could have hit Enter. And you'll see that in AppReader, I have this icon attached to the mouse pointer. When I'm in the AppReader tool mode, I can't close this application. I can't save or make changes to the document. You're fixed in the reading tool mode. But what you can do while you're still in AppReader here and it's paused, I can left-click another word for it to start reading there. So let's say I wanted to start at the next sentence. I'm going to click on the word the.
The world will little note nor long remember what we say here, but it never forget what they did here.
And it will start reading from that location. I just left-click to pause again. And when I'm done with AppReader, I can right-click the mouse or press the Escape key to exit, and now I'm back to having control over the document, and I can make changes. So those are our two reading tools. AppReader is really best for if you're reading on the Internet, because you can simply point and click to where you want it to start reading. DocReader is going to always start at the beginning of the document or wherever there's a blinking text cursor. So in the case of the web, it'll start reading at the very, very top, which might be like login, might be maybe where you sign into a web page. And a lot of that content you might not be interested in reading. So I always tell people that they're best using AppReader on the web. Okay.
Magnifier.
A couple last-minute tips before we open it up to Q&A. A lot of times people will be trying out ZoomText. They'll go ahead and make a whole bunch of changes to their configuration. They'll set up a color filter, a pointer enhancement, and then they'll exit ZoomText or shut down their computer, and it comes back up at the normal 2x settings. Make sure before you exit ZoomText that you go to the File menu. If you want to save your settings, go to the File menu and choose Save as Default. It's the fourth one down from the top. Choose that, and then you'll be prompted, and it just asks, are you sure you want to save the current ZoomText settings as your default settings? And you can just click on Yes. That way, every time you start ZoomText, it'll come up with your preferred settings that you've already set up. Along with that, a couple other tips. You can have ZoomText start automatically such that, whenever you log into your computer, the program automatically launches. If you went through the automatic installation of ZoomText, should have done this for you right out of the box. But if it didn't, or if you want to turn it off, go under the Settings menu and then click on Program. And if you're running Vista or Windows 7, you're going to be prompted with this user account control dialog. This just happens when any application is prompting the machine to make changes. Just click on Yes. And there's a checkbox at the top. It says Start ZoomText automatically when the system starts. Simply click on that if you want it to start with the system. Another cool feature is you can even have ZoomText start from a shortcut key. So if I check that, the default hotkey is Control-Alt-Shift-Z to start ZoomText. And I think that key combination is a little difficult for most people. So what you can do is you can customize this as well. If I click my mouse in that field, and now on the keyboard, just hit the key combination that I want to be to start ZoomText. Let's say I want it to be Alt F10. I can press those keys on the keyboard, and now it changes that. And then I just click OK at the bottom, and that's my hotkey to start ZoomText. So that is the end of our demo. I'm going to go ahead and switch back here to our presentation and just show you a couple other things. Our sales line number there, as well as tech support. We do offer free technical support on ZoomText. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. Eastern Time. Even if you're just running a trial, you haven't purchased a copy of ZoomText, we give you free technical support. We also have a worldwide network of dealers that resell our product. So if you go to our homepage, if you go to our homepage or AI2 and click on the Dealers tab, it's also down there at the bottom. It's AI2.com/dealers. You can click on your state or your country to find a local dealer near you. So if you need something like in-home assistance or you need somebody to come and install ZoomText for you in person, definitely go through one of our dealers. We're located in Manchester Center, Vermont, so our reach to many of our customers is very, very limited. So please rely on our dealers for things like that, and they can offer you assistance in your home or maybe even in-home training. Some of them offer that as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and unmute everyone that's here today. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask.
So we did have one question during the webinar that Stacy asked about sticky keys, and if sticky keys will work so that multiple keys do not need to be held together. And I did tell her about, you can reassign all of the hotkeys to be whatever you want. It doesn't have to be 3 or 4 keys at one time, but I wasn't sure if you could use sticky keys in ZoomText.
I haven't actually, to tell you the truth, I've never tried using sticky keys with ZoomText, and I'm trying to remember because this is something that we're adding from time to time, and I can't remember off the top of my head if that's the case. So we'll have to get back to you on that one. I'm not really familiar how sticky keys work, but if they prevent you from holding down multiple modifier keys, then that could be an issue. But that being said, like Becca mentioned, you can reassign all of the hotkeys in ZoomText. All the functions in the product you can access via hotkey. But some of them do require multiple modifier keys to be held down, only because there's only so many key combinations you can do without stepping on the toes of other applications. But Stacy, we'll have to get back to you and answer that one. Any other questions while we're here?
It's just a reminder that, if your microphone isn't set up, you can always type your question that you have into the question area or the chat window. So Stacy asked, can you change the voice to a female voice in Reader? And you can definitely do that. Neo-speech is the human-sounding voice that people I think use, and you heard Paul, that's the voice that was speaking, but we also have Kate, and I think Derek can give you a quick sample of what she sounds like.
I'll just go ahead and read some of the document with Neo-speech Kate for you and let you hear.
Address doc compatibility mode Microsoft Word.
And now I turned on sticky keys to see if it worked, and it does work. So I'm trying to adjust myself to how the way I should be using it.
It is for us the living rather to be dedicated here to the unfinished which they who fought here have thus far so nobly advanced. It is rather for us to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that from these on our dead we take increased devotion to that cause for which they...
So that's Neo-speech Kate.
There's some other synthesizers. There's True Voice and Via Voice, and I'm not sure if those are all male voices or if those are female as well.
Female, but the other synthesizers, Neo-speech is what's considered a human-sounding speech synthesizer. So some of the other synthesizers we ship in our product are more kind of screen, but not as human-sounding.
Yeah, they're more robotic, but some people, Neo-speech just isn't quite fast enough, even at the highest level. For something like proofreading a document, they prefer something that's, faster than I can understand. But yes, there's definitely multiple voices in ZoomText to choose from.
And there's even international voices too. We sell an international version of ZoomText. It comes with, let's see, German, French, Italian, Spanish, what else? And we also have just recently added some other languages, Czech, Finnish, a couple different dialects of Spanish. I can't remember all of them off the top of my head, but if you're multilingual, we do also have synthesized in different languages. Any other questions? Okay, well, if there's no other questions then, I'm going to thank you guys for coming today. And if you have any follow-up questions, you can email learning@aisquared.com if you have any questions about the webinar. If you have ZoomText-related questions, you can email support@aisquared.com. And we wish you all a happy holiday and have a great day.